Hey folks, welcome back to the podcast, the Evil Dungeon Master Universe podcast. I am your host, Evil Dungeon Master Vince, and I hope you're having a great Tuesday. I know I am. It's early in the morning, getting this podcast up and ready for y'all to listen to it. Happy to get all the feedback I've been getting. Thank you for those that downloaded the Perilous Pathways magazine and those that have been listening to the podcast. The numbers have been increasing. I'm up to 212 reviews on Spotify. So I thank you for those that are finding the podcast and downloading and enjoying the AD&D goodness. If you want to support me, you can go to buycoffee.com/evilDM and support me there, or ko-fi.com/evilDM. Support me there as well. Or you could support this podcast on Spotify if you're a Spotify listener. TheEvilDM.com is my website, or you can email me for askthedm@theevildm.com. With all that out of the way, I want to get right into today's topic. It's mostly a underutilized spell. Something that I was looking through and noticing that I don't remember a lot of people playing this spell. Let's flip open to page 77 of the Player's Handbook and look at the Fumble Spell. Now, it is an enchantment and charm spell, so that means forget about Undead right away. But it's a level 4 spell, 1 round a level, affects one creature, verbal, semantic, material, 4-segment casting time, saving throw is half. Interesting. I like when they do that, but this is one of those no-fail safe spells, I call them, or safe spells, or whatever you want to call them. When a fumble spell is cast, the magic user causes the recipient of the magic to suddenly become clumsy, awkward. Running creatures will trip and fall. Those reaching for an item will fumble and drop it. Those employing weapons will likewise awkwardly drop them. Recovery from a fall or of a fumbled object will typically require the whole of the next melee round. Note that breakable items might suffer damage when dropped. If the victim makes his or her saving throw, the fumble will simply make him or her effectively operate at 1/2 the normal efficiency, like a slow spell. The material component of this spell is a dab of solidified milk fat. So that's why I call it a safe spell, or what do you want to call it, spell, whatever. Because honestly, the way this is written, and there's a couple different ways to interpret this spell. Now, let's say you're, 9th level. So that's 9 rounds per level that this spell is in effect. The way people have interpreted this spell, that if he makes a saving throw, that means he's going to be slowed for 9 rounds. If he fails his saving throw, the spell is going to continue. So every time he picks up his weapon, every round, or tries to employ a weapon, he's just going to drop it. Or another way I've seen another GM interpret this is that it is in effect, and if he saves, he is slowed for that amount of time. Great, but if he fails and he drops his weapon, that's the end of the spell. So there's a couple different ways to interpret this spell when you're in combat, or depending on who your DM is. So I don't know. I want to know what you think out there for this one. Does he actually, the opponent, keep fumbling each round? Or do they just do one and done? But, I mean, if I was a magic user using this, and it came to the point I was fighting the big bad, I would cast this on them and hope that they passed their saving throw. Hope they save. Because then they're moving at 1/2 normal efficiency. So they can't move as far, and they can't attack as much as well. So if I was 9th level casting this spell on the big bad, he would move. Say he had 4 attacks, he'd only have 2 attacks, and he only can move 15 feet or 10 feet, depending on how fast he can move. I would definitely take that. And why I call this an underutilized spell is because everybody's all about, oh, I have to do damage, and if I don't do damage, I'm worthless. No. The magic user is very powerful as he grows in levels, but sometimes you need to do things that'll help your group out. And the fact that you're casting this spell and you're going to make him move at 1/2 the normal efficiency, you are doing more damage to the big bad than any of the fighters can do. Just that alone, for 9 rounds, will probably have your group slaughter the big bad. Not easily, but will help him slaughter the group give you a better situation. That's my thoughts on that. And as I'm reading this spell over again and kind of thinking about it, I would definitely put this in my arsenal because I would want this and save it for that one moment when it comes to the big bad and hope that they pass their saving throw. Generally, I'm going to think that the big bad is going to, because if they're that high in level and you're in that high level, the chances are of saving versus magic will be pretty low. So their chance to save it will be fine. But the part of the spell that makes me wonder, and I don't know how it was written exactly, and I'm sure it's probably in a Dragon magazine somewhere because someone had to have brought this up over all of 40-something years. Do they keep fumbling it and dropping it every round because it's last at, or as soon as he tries to move, 1, or 2, draw a weapon, or has a weapon in his hand and drops it, the spell terminates? That's what I would like to know here. And I know this is an adjudication DM situation here. I think in a situation for this spell, it'd be a little too powerful to keep going, fumbling every single round, because then all he'd be doing is drop his sword, pick up his sword, drop his sword, pick up his sword, drop his sword. Or at least if he has magic, he can just be like, ba-boom, and forget about his sword, depending on what he is. If he's not undead or something, obviously, because undead is not affected by this whatsoever. So, I don't know. It gives me a lot of thought. Oh, and who the hell is carrying around a dab of solidified milk fat, by the way? Because, I guess it's D&D, so that's going to be definitely in your little materials pouch. Also, how do you handle materials in your game as a DM? I'd like to know that in the comments, too. Do you actually make your players go out and find the material components to spell and hold them accountable to it? Now, I understand some of the ones that are like really high level and they require like diamond dust or something like that. Or do you do a lot like I do, lower level spells, you allow them to uh, have those things on them and have what I call a material component pouch, which is filled with all the common items that you find for spells. And every time they go into town, they have to say that they replenish it. Otherwise, they don't have the materials they need going forward. That was a rule that I made up for my game. That you have, I think it was levels 1, 2, and 3. I don't know, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I forgot how I was handling that. And it was material components pouch for a magic user. And every time you go into town, you have to look for a general store to get your material components for those spells, unless the spell was something that has a rare particular thing that's needed for those spells. Otherwise, no. When it came to the higher level spells, no, I was making them actually find material components. So I'm interested in what you do and how you handle it, and you could tell me in the comments what you do. So with that said, I'm going to head out. Keep it original, keep it old school. Good night, God bless, and don't forget to keep those AD&D fires lit. Good night.